Kokemachine for real fishing. One thing that outdoors people fail to truly appreciate is the fact that us being outdoors puts us at a significantly higher risk of encountering paranormal activity. Be that alien, Sasquatch, there's a whole variety of cryptids you could get into. Do your research, you'll know they're out there. If you watch X-Files, you know about it too. Anyway, the scoop is, because it's Halloween, I'm going to lay down for you an eerie story of what happened to a couple of fishermen just trying to get their night fish on in 1973. One thing you got to keep in mind is that, do you think the aliens are going to waste their time using their high-end spaceman technology to go in and out of your house when they can just pluck you off the bank, just like picking an apple? No, they're going to go for the easy mark, and that's you guys hanging out, trying to get your fish on at night. So when you're out there fishing at night, keep your eyes on the skies, keep your eyes on the UFO reports. You never know what's coming. Get ready for this crazy story. Let me tell you a little bit about the Pascagoula Abduction. It occurred on October 11th, 1973, on the Pascagoula River. The abductees were Charles Hickson and Calvin Parker. So, that night they decided to go fishing down on the Pascagoula River. They were hitting up the old catfish hole, So of course they had chicken livers out, maybe some cut bait, maybe some big juicy night crawlers, cat cheese, you know the way it works. And they were probably rocking rigs that looked a little something like this, classic catfish rig. Anyway, so they were in one spot and they weren't catching anything. So what are you gonna do? You gotta pick a new spot, right? So Charles said he had another spot a little further down the river. And they went down there, and there was a sign on the property that said, "No trespassing." But Charles was like, "Don't worry about it, buddy. I fish here all the time." Calvin was like, "Nah, I don't want to get in trouble for this." But Charles was like, "Well, let's give it a shot for a couple minutes and see what happens." So they're down there, throwing their catfish baits out, getting some chicken livers in the water, and all of a sudden they hear this crazy, whizzing sound. And they're like, what's that curious sound, And suddenly they see this blue light flashing behind them, and Calvin's thinking, "Oh crap, we're gonna be busted for trespassing here." And they turn around, and it's this crazy looking UFO, 30 to 40 feet long, 8 to 10 feet tall, blue with a couple of white lights on the side. All of a sudden there's a big flash, and the door opens up, and these three totally tripped out looking dudes come floating out towards them. We're talking these things are 6 feet tall, elephant-like skin, lobster-like claws, crazy antennas coming out of the side of their head. And one thing they noted was that they had exceptionally large testes, or at least organs that looked like testes or where testes would be. So these crazy humanoids floated out towards them. Two of them got a hold of Charlie, and one of them grabbed a hold of Calvin. And Calvin said when it grabbed him, it injected some crazy stuff into his arm, and it seemed to chill him out. So then they floated them back into the ship, and then they were led around into this crazy corridor, and all of a sudden, boom! Calvin finds himself on some sort of crazy spaceman examination table. But who's doing the examining? Well, it turned out it was actually a very human-looking lady. A lady of a caliber that Calvin said, he might take out for lunch sometime if he wasn't on a UFO, and it was like in a bar or whatever. While he was being examined by the space woman, there was some sort of crazy floating eyeball that was floating over his body, taking snapshots of all his gear and stuff like that. At one point, the woman stuck her fingers into his mouth and he started bleeding out of his nose, and he started to panic, and then telepathically she told him, "Don't worry, we're not here to hurt you." And then the crazy elephant-looking guy got a hold of him again and just hauled him outside, tossed him out on the bank, and then the UFO whizzed away. And that was the encounter. That was the way it went. Charlie wrote a couple of books about it. Many, many years later, Calvin decided he was going to write some books about it. He was sort of like a hermit for a while and avoided talking about the whole subject. Now he's totally out in the open with it. The town of Pascagoula's got some sort of a plaque in the area where they were abducted to commemorate the encounter as well. You can look this up. It's all over the news. Wikipedia will tell you all about it. But here's some questions for you. So what was the human-looking alien that was doing the exams on him? Was this government-related? You guys watch the X-Files as much as I do, so, put it together. Why were these crazy alien dudes covered in some sort of elephant skin? They're spacemen, what do you expect? They're gonna look crazy. One thing Kelvin said about the elephant skin-looking dudes is that they moved in a very robotic fashion. So were they robots? What was the deal? I don't know. Anyway, they seemed to be the henchmen, and then the woman seemed to be the person in charge of getting the science part done. So anyway, as fishermen, we always got to keep in mind that whenever you're outside, especially at night, that you leave yourself particularly vulnerable to alien attack. I don't know if I'd go around like worrying too much about whether or not aliens are going to come and abduct you. But like put a few thoughts into it. Check out your local UFO reports. Make sure there's no hot activity in your area that you intend to fish. These things aren't really predictable. It's not like they give you like radar stuff where they tell you like there's UFO in your vicinity. You might want to wear 2 pairs of jogging pants today, on extra tight, that kind of thing. People don't give you those kinds of reports. Happy Halloween, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that story, and we'll talk to you guys in the future.